Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, it's January 16th, and I'd like to welcome you warmly to Day 9 Daily number 543, where we learn to be a better gamer. It's good to have you. In today's daily, we're going to be doing a little bit of a story. A story, you say? Yes, that's literally what I just said. You need to listen better. Why are these intros so weird? Hi, thrilled to have you here. In today's daily, what we're going to be doing is looking at a Zerg vs. Zerg build in Heart of the Swarm from ROOTCatZ, where we're going to be using Queens and Nydus networks and Swarm hosts to unleash an assault on our enemy. Yay! But rather than just analyze a bunch of replays, we're going to start by looking at the nice, ideal execution of it, and then asking ourselves a very natural question. How the hell would I have figured this out? How the hell would I have even been able to get this build? And what we'll end up doing is we'll go back to the beginning before CatZ had the build worked out, and we'll work our way through it to get back to the nice, excellent execution that we're going to see at the start, and then we'll even see what some changes could happen that are down the road. All in all, it's all based around the idea of how do we figure out our own builds, using this ZvZ build from CatZ as an example. I did it. I got through the introduction. It was bumpy, but I nailed it. I've still been recovering from the illness. I still have this nice, like... I still have that going, so that's excellent. But I don't think I have a fever anymore. So victory. Hopefully you will notice an increase of coherence as the days go on. And, of course, an increase in delight in the Day 9 dailies. On the docket upcoming this week, of course, we have CatZ Zerg vs. Protoss tomorrow on Thursday. Friday is Day 9's day off. It's me, I'm Day 9. And on Friday, I'm just going to be playing faster than light for about 6 or 7 hours. I'll be starting in the morning and going till around 5 p.m. Just go to day9.tv for the information. And in fact, speaking of day9.tv, I'm sure many of you wonderful subscribers on Twitch TV have received your Marvin's Mittens copy. Yeah! If you've been a subscriber to the Day 9 Daily for a while, then you received this game, which is great. Except there's one thing that I did not, I think, give enough solicitation to, and I want to give yet more. This is down over on Steam Greenlight. If you actually just go to the homepage of Day 9 TV, you'll just see Marvin's Mittens, and you click there, and then you scroll down to the bottom, where it says mosey on down to Steam Greenlight. If you'd be so kind as to just give this game an upvote if you enjoyed it, because I'll be honest, I loved it, and I really love the Breakfall people who made it. If you haven't gotten the chance to play it, I strongly recommend you check it out regardless. Let's greenlight that bad boy, so that way the entire universe can play it. Literally the whole universe. And the last final announcement is that I will be going to France starting on the 22nd. So I'll actually be in France from the 22nd to the 30th. I'm gone for quite some time, but don't worry, it's because of the Iron Squid. So hopefully the VODs of faster than light action and the Iron Squid event itself will be of sufficient bejugelaracity. I guess that's it. The Iron Squid, by the way, is a tournament. For any of you who didn't know. I'm not just going to France for an Iron Squid. Although I really do think that that's a great way to throw people off, just to combine some material with an animal. I'll be off at the Brass Pony up in France, so if you need me, I'll be very busy with my gold falcon. Good. I think the introduction has been nailed. Let's talk about Zerg vs. Zerg. Ooh, yeah! First, what I want to do is I want to show you the awesome. I want to show you the winningest ever. Maybe you are a human who watches GSL. Maybe you're a zebra that watches GSL. I don't know. It's hard to tune in with hooves trying to maneuver that keyboard. You poor thing, but you're dedicated. You stay up late, you hoof away at the keyboard, and you watch it, and you see these amazing pros perform brilliantly at their various strategies. And you can look at it and do that sort of second-order appreciation, where you can go, that's great, and I see why that works. But then the pain sinks in. How will I ever be able to do that myself? Not just in terms of can I steal his build, but, you know, if you see a Zerg player do something amazing, you say something like, well, gosh, how do I as a Protoss ever come up with a build that great? We're going to go through that process. We're going to mirror it. So we can pretend that this is the GSL. If we wanted to, we can do a little watching of this game. Oh, excuse me. I want to... Good, we got the music going. Rad. This is ROOTCatZ up at the top left side in the green pants under the name Root No Cancer because he has quit smoking, and this is a reminder to him to continue to stay off the habit. I am going to show you something that will tickle your fancy. Look at everything we have right now. We have a lot of queens. We're even getting some additional queenies out. We have Burrow. We have other queen over there. There's another queen up there. We can see we have our geysers. We have 4 geysers up. We even have this infestation pit done. We have a Nydus network almost ready to pop out. We even have some of the infestors and some burrow tech popping out. And look, it's the 9-minute mark. Generally, my opponent can't really have layer tech done and at my base till 10 minutes. And as we see the mutalisks that are being produced by the enemy painkiller, yeah, they're still a good ways from being done. They're about 20-30 seconds, and then it's going to take them 20 or 30 seconds to get to our base, so we're still good. We don't have an infestation pit yet, but we can easily get one and be fine. And we have a clear sense of everything our opponent's doing. Now watch this radness as we speed it up. A queen defense seems very sloppy, seems very slow. We see swarm hosts beginning to be produced. As spines being produced, mutilisks pop out, picking off our overlords. No big deal, we're getting a Nydus worm up with our forward Zergling. And even though we might be losing these overlords, suddenly we just pop right into his face with a bunch of queens, a bunch of infestors, and frickin' swarm hosts. Now, if you don't appreciate this, something's wrong with you. Look at what we're actually seeing, and of course, oopsie daisies, I hit the wrong button, but no big deal. And of course, a counterattack is attempted by Painkiller, who darts up to the top side as we're killing off this base with the queens. But that's fine, we load the queens back up, load the queens back out, and we can hold off this attack. And of course, since he has a limited number of mutalisks to really put pressure on us, that's fine, we're just going to go ahead and unload back into his main base with this composition. And because we have so much energy on the queens, we can easily do transfuse. Certainly some of these are a little bit missed, but that's fine. All our units, including our Nydus network, have more than enough opportunities to be healed back. And just for a little bit of comparison work, I will actually be rewinding to right before this burst into the main occurs. There's actually a substantial amount of roaches out for Painkiller. He actually has 19 roaches out. That's 40 supply worth of roaches. And we're able to easily thwart it with some queens, these locusts. Not really much participation from the infestors. Just a couple of infested Terrans. And we see ROOTCatZ successfully executing this nice... It's almost like a timing push and a timing attack. Wonderful. Fantastical. Load up a couple more queens. This might look close, but the only reason it looks close at all is because there's actually a missed rally point, and CatZ actually neglects to bring over a whole bunch of these swarm hosts. And he's still winning quite badly in the main base. So yeah. And in fact, in the units lost tab, we are crushing our enemy. 2,400 units lost to the 4,730 of the enemy. So, we looked at that situation. We looked pretty much locked down tight against anything that could have come up to us at the start. And then this timing push hit at the worst possible time for Painkiller, before he really even had that many mutalisks in an aggressive position. We could attack, we could defend, we could counterattack, all that sort of goody goodness. As a result, we would watch this and go, oh my gosh, I want to mimic this. How on earth do I pull that off? Well, we're going to go through an entire series of games that will bring us to sort of the lead up to this game, and again, see some elements more. So, now I'm going to quit the replay, and I hope it doesn't crash. Agent Marth, this is you. Agent Marth, will it crash? Heart of the Swarm beta, it's still in beta, and I think we're good. Cool. So let's say you wanted to do this build. What's a very reasonable way to begin? You say, alright, what if I opened up very standard with something like a Zergling Baneling defense? And, gotta let me know, Marth. Okay, well what if we opened with the Zergling Baneling style defense? Very, very standard. Let's see what would happen then. Shall we? Let us examine what would happen. So this is, I think, a very reasonable spot to begin for anyone. You see a cool strategy. In this case, we saw CatZ try to do this strategy. And we would just look at one of our own games in a normal condition and try to think, could we incorporate Swarm Host Nydus Queen into a normal build? Let's go ahead and take a look. This is CatZ. A while before even attempting to do any Swarm Nydus Queen stuff. And let's take a look at a normal type Zerg vs. Zerg. So we do see the standard early expand. And immediately something that sticks out for the Zerg vs. Zerg matchup in particular is that there's nothing new until layer. I think we were showing this yesterday, that if we look at the Zerg units, Viper, this is a Hive Tech unit. Swarm Host, this is a Layer Tech unit. And I guess the Hydralisk is the only other different one, and this too is also a Layer Tech unit. And the Mutalisk change, actually, yeah. Mutalisk now move a lot faster. They move at a speed of 4. And that's still Layer Tech. So everything in the early game seems quite reasonable. We see ROOTCatZ just going for the double queen opening. Opening up with Zergling speed. Everything looks pretty typical, right? All this sort of opening jazziness. Now, I'll state right off the bat, CatZ wants to play in a more drone-centric way. He doesn't want to go nuts and add on a whole bunch of Lings and Banelings. Certainly, getting the defensive Baneling nest is fine, but we're going to see CatZ show the desire to start teching up. We're going to see CatZ do things like this, get the gas geyser up a little earlier, so that way we can begin teching towards a layer, having that sort of gas buildup. However, upon CatZ seeing, with his Overlord, that there's Zerglings moving up, CatZ begins to make more Zerglings. Or, excuse me, the color coding was messed up. Yes, as CatZ has some Zerglings out right now, and then we'll begin to see some Zerglings slipping past along this crack. And by the way, here are those Zerglings moving up. Then CatZ will respond the same way every other Zerg player would respond. By getting more Zerglings, by getting more defense. Sure, we have the layer going up right now. The layer going up at this point in time would be the sort of expected play from a player who values the mid and late game, wants to try to win there, but now CatZ has built up all this excess defense and needs to do something with it. And there he is, building more drones, but his drone count is still quite low, still at 31, as his layer tech is wrapping up. Getting this +1 range, this will help our swarm hosts, but we kind of have this weird swell of Zerglings that is not really going to do much. CatZ has some pretty bad connections with Banelings, and then sees another whole set of Zerglings, and then yet again, we are going to be thrown off our plan a little bit. Trying to go for these counterattacks is great, but here, we're still not getting to drone. There's our Zerglings being produced. In the drone counting station, we used to have 31, now we have 39. I'm actually just going to only go a little bit farther in this game, because it still illustrates the point that we're going to be at. After all these sorts of trades, we end up here. I'm going to just stop at around 9:30 or so, because it's not necessary to go on too much longer. When we look at this situation just from a kind of normal... when we look at this situation normally, just from an objective perspective, this is not a good time to begin doing some sort of cutesy Queen and Swarm Host Nydus network stuff. We're vulnerable, we don't have a lot of defense along these edges, so we don't want to be doing some Nydus network counterattacks. We will likely need roaches to be able to defend this position, and if we're building a lot of roaches, probably trying to go for Nydus Swarm Host seems a little bit needless. It's going to be stronger to go for the for just a delayed tech on this at the very least. Either infestors right now and swarm hosts later, or just roaches now and swarm hosts later. So here's why I decided to bring up this example, because this is me looking at a game that would be defined as a rather typical Zerg vs. Zerg and saying something like, okay, this seems like not a good starting point for our goal build, which is Swarm Host Queen Nydus network pressure, particularly the Swarm Host pressure with those Nydus networks. And the two reasons are, one, all the defense that I'm doing at the start seems to really be hurting my economy, so I need a different defense that's not Ling-Baneling centric. And two, now that I'm here and at my lair, I don't have any of the other pieces. And anytime you can list out your problems like that, you can figure out ways to merge them together. So it's very intuitive to then say something like, oh, if I defended with queens and spines early on, then not only would I secure my problem of defending early on, but also I would already have an army set up to do this sort of Queen Nydus networking type things. This is a similar concept to what we saw yesterday. CatZ was going Viper at the Hive Tech, and because roaches work so well with Viper, suddenly it means that we can use roaches in the mid game, because now they're good in the late game, as opposed to saying, ugh, I don't want to build roaches in the mid game, I'd rather build Ling Infester in the mid game for that Hive Tech. But this is literally the simplest example possible. Let's use queens to defend. Oh god, I'm closing a replay. And it didn't crash. Cool. Cool, 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 cool. We're going to look at now is just this very intuitive, basic, almost simplistic execution of the opening. Like anyone would do the first time it just pops into their head. I'm going to give this shot, or I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to just use queens for early defense and then go into this Queen Nydus Swarm Host play. Again, we listed the problems that we had before by looking at our ordinary game, and the queens seem to just satisfy both of these. The fewest possible ways to solve all of our problems. This is a really useful game. I was thrilled that CatZ provided me with this game. This is a total botching of the strategy. This is just the strategy going abysmally frickin' wrong. CatZ, gets some time to play. Maybe you get some time to play some games. You're toying around with ideas, but this is one of your early ones. Oh, by the way, you see that where CatZ accidentally right-clicked all his workers onto one mineral patch? Seriously, that happens to everyone. May this be a reassurance to you. So spawning pool goes down. Everything's looking quite ordinary. Gas timing from CatZ, still quite early on. But here we end up with one queen, we end up with queen 2. We're getting close to being able to even start our layer tech right away. And why not? I mean, if we're going to be going Nydus network plus queen type stuff. Yeah, we even saw a started queen. Actually, this is a very useful thing, because I want this to highlight how early this is in the practice attempt. CatZ starts a queen, can actually just do a simple extractor trick to get this queen to start production, because this overlord's a little late. But instead, CatZ goes, no, you know what? Let me try layer. All first attempts at builds are going to be a little bumpy. The important thing is that we can see what ends up going wrong and how we would end up adjusting that. So moving ahead. CatZ getting up all these sort of extractory type things, getting up all his gas. His queens were a little late. I might say to myself, I'm not sure if I'm safe in the early game. I'm genuinely not sure if I am safe. Maybe I'm teching to layer too quickly, but that's fine. We won't find that out unless our opponent attacks us, and if he attacks us and we die, then great. That's what we were looking for the whole time. The goal of this was to show you CatZ now. Look, going for what I would describe as intuitive. If I want to be doing some sort of Nydus network swarm host plus infester attack, I may as well just get the infestation pit early, get the Nydus network early. gather all the queens together. We now have these 4 queens. And boom, here comes the Nydus network, just like we saw in the last game. And this is where our awesome failness happens. Sure, everything we saw from last game should still hold true. Bursting in like this should give us kind of a favorable position. We can even spread creep to begin stepping forward, but this attack's just not very big. And in fact, Palermo literally waltzes up. We nail 2 fungals, like just the best fungals ever, and just get slaughtered to bits. And shortly thereafter, CatZ actually just says GG and gives up. Here's attempt number 2. Yeah, this attack's looking a lot better. But now there's no queens. So this is where our story begins to form. We've already seen that eventually CatZ is going to figure out how to execute this attack very well. That's how we opened up the daily. These first 2 games are to give you a glimpse into how you would start trying to think through, as a starting point, how you want your build to look. Immediately we're seeing problems like this attack didn't have enough anti-air in it. This attack actually seemed quite small. In the early game, I was worried that CatZ wouldn't actually have enough to stay alive. CatZ needs a lot more queens. In fact, his drone count's pretty low. 39. CatZ needs more economy. Or, I think is a better way to put it, if you're trying this strategy, you'd look at your own game right now and be like, gosh, I really need more economy. This attack's coming too early. But again, fortunately note to yourself, our attack seems too small when we do it. We didn't seem to have enough anti-air. We seem to have more drones. We're worried about dying in the early game. We can solve all these problems very, very cleanly by just focusing less on teching quickly early on and more on just building drones and queens. When we come back into part 2, we're going to see that after a couple games, CatZ has an amazing execution, and we're going to look at that amazing execution in a lot more explicit detail. So let's go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to do that. Yeah, let's do it.